And good afternoon, and welcome to episode already 12 of Beyond the Devastation. My name is John Perez. I'm your host for these next 25 minutes or so. Today, I'm honored to have this guest that talk about going through something. Wow. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to let him fill in the blanks because I think it's better for him to do it than me. I can't even do it justice to figure out where he's been to where he is now, how he made it through, and how we overcame some obstacles that, I'll be honest, folks, I don't think a lot of us could have gotten through. But thankfully, we've got him here, and we're going to introduce him here. There he is, Martin Gramulat. He is also known as Marty to his friends, and I got fortunate enough to call him that. So welcome to Beyond the Devastation, episode number 12. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Pastor John. It's good to see you, and thank you for having me on.
Oh, no, it's an honor. Listen, he came highly recommended by one of our other guests, and we're so grateful for him to take a few minutes of his time to tell a little bit about what he's really endured and how he's paying it forward. And I think that to me is really the cool part. And without me, I've read his bio. And if you read his bio, you know why I'm saying wow. But Martin, tell us about where you came from and where you are now, and then we'll ask some questions in between because I've got some information. I've got some questions I want to ask. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Fire away when you're ready. But
no, you go first. You go first.
I thank you for having me and letting me share, my story. This is an important story. It has to do with mental health and criminal justice. And it's very relevant today as we see a lot of news stories. I am diagnosed with bipolar, so I take medication for that. And a few years ago, I was on the wrong medication and I became sick, very manic. I wasn't violent, but I was acting differently, acting strangely. And when a concerned neighbor called the police to do a wellness check, I greeted them from inside the house and told them, listen, I'm really sick. I need to go to a hospital. I'm paranoid. I don't want to come outside. And they understood that. And they said, fine, an ambulance is on its way. And so I just tried to remain calm. But what wound up showing up was a SWAT team with a battering ram. So I saw that happening. And in a moment of clarity, I said, I'm coming out. Please don't shoot me. And that started my sort of spiral into the criminal justice system and its intersection with the mental health system and how I was treated and how now I want to share my story to help others.
Yeah. And folks, I know what it is to be diagnosed with PTSD. I know what it is to be put on some medication that they say it's good for you. And as Marty and I were talking in the green room, hey, most of these guys just prescribe just to overprescribe. And they hope that that's going to treat the problem. What it does is create more problems. So Marty, take us through those 60 days in isolation.
Sure. So I was arrested and taken to jail. And because I was sick, I was taken to the psychiatric wing, right? And what they did was they took all my clothes and they gave me a blanket and they stuck me in a concrete room, very small room, and I couldn't leave. And that was punitive, very punitive. It's a form of torture. And I said to the guards, anyone who would listen to me, look, I'm not a criminal. I don't belong in jail. Why am I here? What happened, right? So I lost everything pretty quickly. But while I was there, I begged for medication, right? I begged for medication because I knew if I got lithium, I would come out of this manic state. Because when I was arrested, I asked the officers, can I go back in and take my meds with me? And they said, no, you can't do that. So I was immediately off medication, cold turkey, which is one of the worst things you can do. And being in jail was not a good place to be for many reasons, especially because I couldn't get medication to help me. I was sick. I wasn't a criminal. I was very sick.
Yeah. And folks, if you know anything about cycling off any meds, right? Normally they do it on a gradual basis. You're talking about cold turkey. And then not only that, but you're not at home. You're in a hellhole. Let's just call it what it is, right? And you're sitting there day after day, and this is what they call evaluation. This is far from that. I love what you wrote, Martin, in your bio. You said not only people look for PTSD, but the other acronym that we don't use is PICS, which is post-incarceration syndrome. Can you explain that? Because it's the first time I'm hearing it. And as I told you in agreement, I've been working with the incarcerated since 1997. And we see the recidivism rate, crazy, right? But we don't deal with the trauma of them being locked up from either day 1 to day 3091. Can you tell us a little bit more about this? Because it's really important.
Sure, absolutely. And thank you, Pastor, for the work you do. Not only everywhere, but I know when I was in jail, it was one of the more meaningful things I could do was to meet people like you, to listen to a sermon, have that human connection. But yes, PICS, post-incarceration syndrome. This is a form of PTSD, right? I've been incarcerated for however long. Everything's been taken from me. I've been told when to get up, when to go to bed, what I can do, when I can do it, what to eat, when to eat it. And then hopefully at some point I'm released and all that ends. And unless you have a support system to help you, it becomes very difficult to navigate society. And I need a phone now. And how do I work an iPhone? So a lot of times you can fall back on the trauma of society, right? I'm post-incarcerated, but I still have I still feel controlled, right? I've been controlled for however long, and now I have self-control and autonomy, and that can be traumatic to deal with.
So folks, if you've never been locked up from an incarceration standpoint, but there are many people, Marty, that you deal with in your, as you now are, deal in your profession. So before I go there, let me do this. Martin was out. Tell us about, because you were in Arizona when this whole breakdown happened, right? But how did you get to Arizona so people understand what you were doing here? Because people, you can hear from his accent that he is not a native. I don't think there's anybody native to Arizona. I think they're all transplants from New York. So, Martin, how did you end up in Arizona? What were you doing before you got to Arizona and here in New York? And then what transitioned you out there, and then how you came back?
Sure. And yes, you are correct. I'm a native New Yorker. So I'm an attorney. I'm a recovering attorney because I don't practice law anymore. Recovering from that trauma. But I did that for several years, and I was good at it. I was very successful, but it wasn't meaningful to me. So I started over. I started, following a passion of mine, which I always encourage folks to do, which is conservation, sustainability, clean air, clean water. And in order to start over, I just said, what should I do? I don't really have any experience doing this. So I walked into Sierra Club's office and I said, I'm here. I want to volunteer. I'm an attorney. So if you have, I can help you with legal issues, and I want to help save the trees and the air. And they said, this is great. Can you make copies? And I said, copies? Sure. I also know how to use a fax machine. So, right? I'm starting over. So I like to tell that story to encourage people. And that started me down the road of becoming an environmental advocate, becoming a social justice advocate, and sustainability and equity. And I found myself, I had moved out to Arizona, and I was teaching at Arizona State University, and I was asked to help write a textbook. And I was teaching sustainability to college students and the importance of it and climate change. And this was 6 years ago. So we see where we are now. So it's an important issue.
Right.
And I was doing that. I had found my niche, and I got very sick, and I had that manic episode I mentioned, and I lost everything.
Right. So when you say lost everything, so people understand, what did you lose?
I lost everything but my dignity. And that was the most important thing to hold on to. But, they arrest you, they put you in handcuffs, they take all your clothing, you lose all your rights, you lose all your autonomy. I was sick. I was not a criminal. I did not belong in jail. But I had no say over that. And they don't keep your job open for you, right? I was teaching, I had a job, I had a career, I was a college professor, and they wouldn't let me out of jail. So the semester started, I lost my job. Eventually I got out of jail and got 3 years probation for being sick, on top of the 80 days in the solitary confinement. And I then lost my home because without a job, I couldn't pay the mortgage. My ex moved out. I lost my relationship, my marriage. But as I said, I had a support system to fall back on. And, I'm in active recovery, and I'm here to tell people, we are survivors, and we can do this, right? And there are services out there, and I'm here for anyone who needs mental health advocacy or services, because it's a crisis, but there is help out there.
Yeah, and this is where, this is why I've been talking to people like yourself, because this is to me, in what I do every day, this is the hidden disease that nobody talks about: mental health, right? We've got people, whether they're in the church, they're in your law profession, you're in school, think about all these things that we got going on with COVID. We've got a mental health crisis. I was reading some statistics, Marty, and it said that we've got more mental health concerns than we do right now, practitioners. That the system right now is, the floodgates are about to break, and we cannot sustain to be able to help people. More than the pandemic, it's the mental health crisis that we're facing, because you transitioned from lawyer to, you didn't like it. You went to being a professor. You lost that because of what you were going through, and you were incarcerated. And this is the other part of incarceration, is that it's not like you killed anybody. It's not like you robbed anybody, but they robbed you of everything, right? Mm-hmm. And now you're there for 80, 90 days, stripped down of everything. And the only thing you held on to was your dignity. And you had a blanket to keep you warm, and you made it out. So there was a strength within you that allowed that to happen, because many folks would have, the deck would have folded, and they would have been picking them up off the floor. So I'm grateful that you're out, right? So now you're transitioned. So now in your new career that you found because of the devastation that you experienced. So what is your new title in life?
So my new title, my current title is I'm a mental health advocate. I'm also a peer specialist, which means I am someone with lived experience with mental health struggles, and recovery, who supports others. And we support each other by comparing and sharing our lived experience, as opposed to when I speak to my therapist, it's she's up here and I can feel down here. It's more of a one-way conversation. even more so maybe with my psychiatrist, it's more one way. Whereas what I do is I support people as a peer. We're all peers and we can share our experience. And people find that's a really helpful way to recovery, either in addition to or with other coping mechanisms. But it's I am a peer specialist, and this is something I am as a person and also in the mental health field, because this works. This sort of added component. Listen, thank you for letting me talk about it.
You don't have to prove that to me, because I know it. I know it works. I that peer to peer, to be able to talk to somebody who's been through what you've been through and say you're not alone. Those words right there, you're not alone, can change somebody's life. People don't get it. You're not alone. And when we share, this is where in the church it drives me crazy sometimes, Marty, is that we don't tell what we've been through. And we always say, well, hey, look, if God's done something for you, tell somebody about it, right? Don't keep it to yourself. You're not an island unto yourself. You can do this. I remember I went into a situation. I was a president of the board for a domestic violence shelter for a number of years. And the director asked me to go speak to a bunch of men who were struggling with some mental health crises. And I told them my story, just like you did, Marty. And you know what? People started raising their hands all around the room. And for the first time in my life, I felt like what I've been through was worth it. Now, I couldn't say that when I was going through it, and I don't think any of us can, but when I saw those hands pop up and they came up after me and said, Pastor, for the first time, we know we're not alone. It's a game changer for me. And I'm sure with you in your new profession, when you hear people that been incarcerated, had a manic attack, broke down, came off meds, still seeing somebody to help you maneuver through these days. And then when you can find somebody, you can say, you know what? I've been there with you. And there's that agreement that you guys have been through. That's, to me, Marty, not too many people what you do would share what you've been through because they're ashamed. And how did you overcome that? Because I think that's big.
Thank you. That is huge. And I was devastated. I lost everything. I was out in Arizona, and my mother, who's one of my biggest supporters, said, well, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know. My home is here, my career, I don't want to leave. But she said, well, I think you have two choices. You can pack up your things and move back in with me to get back on your feet, or you're probably going to wind up homeless.
Wow.
And that's when I started packing my things. But I went to my mother's. I moved back to New York. I couldn't get out of bed for a year. I couldn't shower. I was in this deep depression. I thought my life was over. I was never going to get a job again because I'm a criminal now. And that was devastating. And I was ashamed. There was so much shame. Like, I'd ruined my life. Well, what did I do? I can't. How has this happened? I'm a good person. People who, I knew for 20 years won't talk to me. They won't even acknowledge my existence. I got sick, so there was like abandonment and feeling like I've been discarded. And it took me a while to say, you know what? I own my story. There's nothing to be ashamed of. I'm going to tell it to anyone who will listen or will pretend to listen, because our stories are powerful and they need to get out there. And it took me a while to get there. It was difficult. Every time I told my story, it was emotional, but I'm liberated and I'm empowered when I can tell my story. And I encourage people to do that, because we will be heard.
So if anybody wants to take anything away from this conversation, here's a couple things I want you to note. Regardless if you've been raped, you've been sodomized, you've been mentally and verbally abused. You've been incarcerated. You've been treated like the junk on the bottom of a shoe, right? Worse than that. It's time to speak up. It's time to tell your story. Because see, I believe, and this is what I know, there's healing in you being able to get this out and be able to get, look, when you go to therapy, half the things is just talking about it. Ask Marty. Listen, I've sat in the chair. I know what it is. Half of it is just you just talking about the hell that you've been through, right? And having somebody on the other side take notes and charge you a lot of money. We're not going to go there today because I'm in the wrong profession. But anyway, this is what it's about. It's about empowering yourself to look. There's so many ways to get your story out, right? I wanted Marty to come out and tell his story, put it out this way. Look, if you want to do a short video, you can do it. If you want to write it down, you can do it. If you want to share and be a part of a group, whether it be AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, whatever anonymous you want to be. But I think there's a way for you to get it out. And for me, when I read Marty's story, I didn't want anybody not to hear it. Because when you've been stripped of everything but your dignity, and you can tell the story today and you're here, folks, I don't know. This is why this is powerful. And I could have read you his bio, but that doesn't do it justice. What does it justice is a man who was trained as an attorney, then becomes a professor, got sick. Folks, he got sick. And since our society doesn't know what to do with people who have mental illness, we throw them away. I'm going to say it one more time because it's what we do. We throw them away. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. That's why I took this Beyond the Devastation to where I'm at, because I want people to hear that you can get beyond the devastation of being where you were. Look, he is now serving in a capacity to help others to get through their devastation. That's how you survive. Being able to tell this story. And Marty, I can't thank you enough, because there are people out there that would have never, if you would have stayed in that bed and stayed in that fetal position for until today, people would never know that you made it out. And you taught me something. I didn't even know there was such a thing as PICS, right? I learned, look, post-incarceration syndrome. I know PTSD. I got that. Listen, somebody pinned that on my head, and then I decided, just like you, Marty, that I wasn't going to let that I wasn't going to let that identify who I was. When they told me general anxiety disorder, I said, what the heck is that? I said, my name is John Perez, not general anxiety disorder. My name is John Perez, comma pastor, not PTSD. I mean, these are the things that really I wanted people to hear. Look, if you can serve in your community as a volunteer for peer-to-peer, Marty, how can people help others? How did you become this certified peer specialist?
One of the most important ways people can help each other is to listen, right? Listen without judgment. But I would encourage anyone who's interested to look at NAMI Westchester, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, has a website with a lot of services. Also, the Mental Health Association of Westchester. But Pastor, people can contact me. I'm happy to give you my email. I've been there. I know what services are available, and there are options out there. And a lot of times I couldn't even make a phone call to talk to somebody. I was in such a bad spot. And, luckily my mother was my best advocate, and she made the calls for me until I could make them myself. So I know how hard it can be. There are resources out there, as I've said, but I'm happy to help somebody, guide them, or, if I don't know the answer, I will find out who does, and I'll get it for you, because we have to look out for each other. This is our community. We're brothers and sisters.
And this is where we can turn the corner. Look, they're saying that there's not enough mental health specialist out there to take the typhoon that's coming. Right? I think the typhoon's already here. I think the longer we go into COVID, the worse it gets. Right? But we're going to have to become our best. We're going to have to help each other to be our best advocates, because that's how we're going to make it. Look, I'll tell you what, the best thing, my wife is my best advocate. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't for Paula Perez, I would still be somewhere messed up. I'm going to be, thank God I'm going to be 58 coming up next month. But the things that I've been able to get done, I wouldn't have gotten done without a woman who was like you said, Marty, a good listener. Mm-hmm. And I figured this way: if she was a principal for a K-5, she could deal with me, because she was used to listening to people come in her office and little kindergartners deal with. If she could deal with kindergartners, I said, God, she was the right one for me, because some days she said, "Are you 57 or are you 5?" But anyway, it's helped. It really has helped. So, look, can you just, again, what's NAMI again stand for?
Sure. NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and it's a nationwide organization. It has a chapter here in Westchester, and MHA is the Mental Health Association of Westchester. And I'll just, if I could, a minute about, becoming a peer specialist.
Yeah, please. Yeah, please. Yeah.
This was a training, an in-class training, a Zoom training that we do. I teach that, and you can become certified by the state of New York. And what that enables people to do, what it enabled me to do, was recreate myself, save myself, because here was a job I could do because I got sick, right? Because I'm going to share what happened to me, and I'm going to talk about how the criminal justice system failed me. I got a job, right? I did the training. I started working as a peer specialist, supporting others. And we need people to do this, right? We are experts. No one else can do this. They don't teach this in college. And you're right. There is a mental health crisis, and peers work. We have jobs. I'm looking to hire peers. So, I encourage you to reach out, because, again, we are the experts here. And next year, 988 crisis line is going to go into effect. So instead of calling 911 for a police response, we can call 988 for a mental health response to a mental health crisis.
And we're going to need for New York State or for Westchester?
This is for the country. This is national.
Woo!
So
overdue.
It's long overdue, but we need peers to work on the crisis team.
Absolutely.
Work on the lines. Yeah. So it's a revolution, and I'm glad to play my part.
That's awesome. Look, so certified peer specialists, sign up. They need people. Listen, folks, if ever you wanted to give back, if ever you wanted to change one life, sign up to be a certified. How long is the class, Marty?
The class is about 12 weeks, couple days a week, 2 hours a day. It was life transforming for me. When I did the class, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but it became cathartic for me to tell my story and share it with others.
That's awesome.
And then I said, I can do this and get paid.
Wait a minute. Yeah, folks, you can do this and get paid. And on that note, I want to say thank you, Marty. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you. We will get, if you just send me the information, I'm going to blow this out to everybody that I can. And listen, this has been a great conversation, and this is what it's all about. I want to bring on people that have been through, but have seen the other side. And you're on the other side, and we're so grateful for you. Thank you so much. God bless you. This has been great. And I can't thank our common friends so much for putting us together. Probably won't be the last time you're on here. So don't be surprised if you get another invitation.
Pastor, I'm here whenever you need to call on me. And,
all right. Awesome.
Thank you. Wonderful meeting you. And all my best to our friend, Allie.
Yep. Hold on just a minute. Don't go anywhere. Let me just play a little bit of outro.
Love the bass.